down. They can't break me down. They can't break me down.
This is Sweet Radio SVG. My guest this evening on Life No Sugar Added is Desrie Richards. And Desrie has a story and a half to tell. You know, on Life No Sugar Added, the objective is to share stories where people have met some of the worst challenges in life and have come through, not necessarily unscathed, but in a dignified and inspiring manner. Desrie's story is right on point where those two issues are concerned. Desrie, good evening, and thank you for being here with me on Life No Sugar Added.
Thank you, my dear, and I'm happy to be on, Cleo. I'm really happy to be on.
We were delighted when you accepted our invitation. On this program, we talk about the issues that affect Caribbean people. But the difference is, usually when we hear about it from a first world perspective. We hear about the Americans talking about it and the English people and the Canadians. We don't hear our neighbors talking about it. We don't hear our cousins and our friends talking about it. And these are people who are affected. And sometimes we ourselves have family members who are affected, but we don't discuss it with them. So we really don't know how these things affect Caribbean people. We've dealt in the past with LGBTQI plus issues. We've dealt with domestic abuse. We've dealt with incest. We've dealt with substance abuse. And this is our first real look through you at mental illness. So I am very grateful for your presence on the program this evening.
You're most
Let's
welcome.
get started with your earlier years, growing up as a child. How was life back then?
Okay, so I grew up in Troubleka, North Leeward. It was a struggle because like most villagers, we were really poor, you know, and I was the first of, well, eventually 7 children for my mom. So, you know, that is many times you have to assist in caring for the younger ones, you know, and so several times I would have missed school and all of that. I think my mom, she became pregnant as a teenager, you know, and that in itself had challenges because she would have been frustrated and you know, emotionally unsettled when the difficulties occurred, and in many cases she didn't have the resources to deal with them. But I think apart from that, my experiences weren't really unique. They were generally what young children, you know, experienced in the countryside, you know. But at that time, yes, dear, you were right ahead.
No, I let you finish.
Okay, so I was saying that we are on mental health. At that point, I don't think there was any kind of indication until a little later on when I reflect that I actually saw, you know, that there were signs that I was emotionally unwell.
I will like to get more involved in that aspect of your conversation, but let's leave that for a bit and we'll come back to it a bit later. You, despite the challenges of your childhood and the fact that you had so many siblings, and as you say, in a rural environment, usually the economic circumstances are challenging. Despite all of that, you finished school and you went on to university and you did your BSc in business education. How were you able to go through that part of your life?
Okay, that was rather easy. It was normal, except that when I became, because I walked and studied, so I would walk on campus during the morning and go to class on afternoons. But numerous times, and I mean numerous times, please, when I would have finished my class, my walk on mornings, and then go to the dormitory to take a rest, many times I would awake after class would have finished to hear my roommates say, "But Desrie, you missed class, or you missed class again. You slept through class." I would always say, "Well, yeah." I have thought that there's a thin line between sanity and insanity, and I'm not going to get crazy down here. You know, I would say that to them. So when I reflect on that, it was like, wow, you know. So, but
Yes.
I functioned normally. My grades were good, and I just went through as busy, active, spiritually and otherwise on campus and all of that. It was only after when I stayed on for an extra 2 years to do internship on campus that I, you know, started to deteriorate, if I may put it that way.
The
So go ahead,
Before
please.
we go into your deterioration, while you were working and studying, you earned your first degree. You also went on to get married and start your family, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds to me as if you were always in a high pressure situation.
Yes, always rather very, very active, very cheery as you would have seen, you know, but it appeared as though, because I was, as it were, I had these situation. I was kind of predisposed, as the doctor would say. I was predisposed, you know, that those may have either been contributors or they were indicators that here we are headed in this particular direction, which may very well be a precipice as far as mental health is concerned. You know, but yes, you were asking.
You said that you noticed the deterioration during your internship, your 2-year internship. What were you noticing at that point?
Yes, well, I started to feel, you know, well, I would feel sad, maybe not for anything in particular. And then I was actually losing weight rapidly. So when I visited the doctor on campus, he actually said, well, Miss, at that time I was, Miss Lois, you actually have signs of depression. And he treated me, and then I stayed on for the 2 years as was described. I came home, joined the public service. I'm still a part of the public service. And let's say I came home around 97, and then by 2002 I got married, and then I had my only child just about immediately after getting married. And it was like from one hustle to another hustle. So eventually in 2003, that's when I became very ill and was eventually diagnosed. I was taken to the hospital when I attended a function, and it appeared as if things weren't really going well for me. And so my husband, who came and took myself and our little baby, couple months old, to the psychiatrist, and the diagnosis was confirmed. At that point, it was said that I had postpartum psychosis. But as the years progressed, eventually it is considered, well, the experts say I'm actually bipolar.
What is the difference between the postpartum psychosis and the bipolar diagnosis?
Well, really, the postpartum, which from what I was told and doing little research, is sort of one-off, and it is associated generally with having a newborn and with the challenges that come with it, you know. But bipolar would be at one point, at one end, I'm depressed to the point where I can hardly function, and at the other point, or the other pole, I would be manic, disruptive, cannot sleep, you know, and that kind of thing. Again, point where I cannot function. And where
Desrie,
I would
knowing
have
you,
a couple times had to be, you know, it's yes, there.
with my previous experience with you, it is hard to imagine you being disruptive and boisterous. It just so out
Yes,
of character from what I'm accustomed to seeing from Desrie.
yes, and it would have happened numerous times to
Your
the fear and chagrin of my husband and son and mom, other siblings, and and Cleo, if I may just like come a little close and make it real. During those periods, I would look at them and to me, I'm good. But they are the ones, especially my husband, I would have said to him a couple times, "What you say? Look at your eyes. You're the one who you need to go to the doctor. Look at your eyes." But during that time, he would have seen the changes and would insist and would take me to the doctor. But I want to say early clear before time runs out and I don't get the time to see. Those times, even after my initial attack in 2003, each time I took ill to the point where it became institutionalized, I would have taken myself off the medication without the doctor's advice. Because I think when you're emotionally unwell or mentally unwell, it's not something you could judge for yourself. And so a couple times I would feel good in my body. I feel strong. I'm doing things normally and it's okay. But I just can't, or anyone listening, you just can't say, okay, you're fine, come off of it now or so on. That has to be a decision that must be made by the physician.
And that's a very strong point that you're making, because several times I've heard of people who have done the same thing that you've done. You decided that you can assess yourself and the level of well-being and make a determination as to when to discontinue meds, and it has gone terribly wrong. Yes. Can I take you back, Desrie, to your first attack? What happened and what did you think was happening?
Okay, so shortly after, because I would have gotten married in 2002, March 2002. And like I said, I became pregnant instantaneously. So by the end of the year 2002, I had husband, my first son. And getting married and you have to make certain adjustments. You're no longer on your own and where you get up at any time, but you have a new husband and you want to ensure that everything goes fine. Meals are prepared, the laundry is done, the house is well kept, XYZ. And you're going while I'm pregnant and while I give birth and while I must take care of baby. And it eventually cleared just about March, April, I start becoming extremely tired. And then we had to the point where I had to say, well, I think we need to hire help at least to do the laundry, so I can ease the pressure a bit. And then, but it appeared as if that was too late. So when this particular function, it was Gospel Fest, the pre Gospel Fest. So that's always a marker for me. And I went, corresponding with my husband all the time. I went and then as I told you, the disruptive part of it came in and the rest is history. But I think what really happened, going steadily, making the change from being single to being married and not being a mom to being a mom instantly and all of those, plus having been diagnosed a few years prior with depression, it's like it was just too much. It was just too much.
Everything came to a head at that point.
Right. But I must say, I guess, because I am a woman of faith, that it hasn't really impacted me to the point where I ever felt less than, I ever felt embarrassed. And I believe too, I usually say that the support of my immediate family, my husband, my son, my mom, and the rest, you know, they would have always been there. And so I had no time where I would have been languishing for help and support to push me into a corner and say, oh my, throw my hands up in the air in despair. But as you say, you've known me, and I guess I've always been confident and that sort of thing. So low self-esteem was never, a struggle for me, and I think that has really helped. But importantly, because as I speak here this evening on your program, Cleo, I must mention to our listeners how important it is for family support. Whether it's our husband, our children, whatever families we have, because we just can't do it on our own. At the start, and generally, well, from what I would have thought, because I go to my appointments and I would hear, and from what I would have experienced and heard, the emotionally unwell folks, firstly, we always think that we are well. And second, because of that, we're not inclined to take meds. So you have to have family who would say, take your meds. To remind us.
How easy was it for your family to give you that support that you needed? Because as you said, in your mind, you are quite well. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And these people are now becoming nuisances because they want you to do things that are not necessary. How easy was it for them to provide you with the support that you needed?
Well, I think they acknowledged, unlike a lot of folks, they acknowledged that I wasn't well and I needed them. I couldn't do anything on my own, not even to pray. And as I said, I'm a woman of faith. So tons of prayers and so on would have gone up. They were determined, come at me, that they had to help and they weren't going to leave me on my own to just be another statistic, maybe on the street or in the institution, whatever. And so they are compelled to help. And I think that's important, that our family, regardless, sometimes we're not easy. We're not easy to deal with, because we put up a lot of resistance. Sometimes we are physically stronger than normal, and so they have to have that kind of strength to bear, and it's just not always very easy, but important.
What was it?
Yes, go ahead.
No, you just finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just emphasizing that importantly, family must decide, and thank God that my family, immediate and extended, made it their choice to be there for me, regardless.
And I'm thankful. What was it like coming to getting your diagnosis? Because initially you'd been diagnosed with depression, and then you had an incident in 2003.
Yes.
So what was the process like getting your diagnosis? How easy was it? How long did it take?
Well, it's usually they do their assessment, and Cleo, we have sometimes maybe we underestimate. I don't say everybody may be on the same page, but I have had top-notch doctors over the years. And it is now 2003 to now, you're talking about 17 plus to 19 years. And I've had serious doctors who would maybe ask the right questions, make the right observations, and then decide, well, this is it. I recall my first psychiatrist, he's no longer in the system, retired now, so, and he's probably not listening, but that Dr. Denmark, and he would say to me, once or twice when I went on my appointments, he said, Desrie Richards, the young lady who doesn't take her meds, and then, so, but I think, and I would hardly then, and now, because it's more a part of my life, I go on my own and it's cool and all of that. But initially, you know, you would hardly go by yourself. My
But
sister,
how long did
yes,
it take for you to get the diagnosis?
in terms of the time when you go to the doctor,
Yes.
yeah,
So
it's
from the
like,
time that you had your first incident to the time when they wrote on your report, bipolar.
yeah, that's just it. It just like it just like it happened like a natural, like just a natural announcement. So I can't even put my hand on it. But I would probably say a few years. And then of course, as time progressed and you have persons who are maybe more exposed and would have studied more and all of that, then they would get into the nitty-gritty. And then of course, because I would be showing new signs, I would have been showing new signs. Because for the postpartum, for example, as I said, in that case, it's one-off. It's generally one-off. You may have a trigger later on, but it's generally one-off. But having had a couple incidences over the years and seeing that I sometimes would have been depressed, extremely depressed, to being manic and running out the house and know if I went left or right, and they gone left to look for me while I'm right, by two neighbors up and that kind of thing, then they realize.
So
Then the doctors, having gotten all of that information and analyzed, realize that it is simply beyond being, the postpartum. It is no bipolar. So that would have just been
and
a couple years.
this diagnosis came when, in 2003?
Yeah, 2003, right. April 2003.
Desrie, what was your reaction when they said to you that you are bipolar? Because you're still thinking all is well with the world and Desrie is fine. What was your reaction when they said that you were actually bipolar?
Strangely, Cleo, I never had any big set of reaction. No remorse, no sadness, no tears, no running. Oh my, I have to live with this situation for maybe the rest of my life. Nothing like that. I don't know. I can't tell you that I was really sad. I was just satisfied. And maybe again that's hinged on trusting God and saying, well, okay, if that's my faith, or it's gonna get better. And it has actually gotten better. Just that I'm still on the meds, I would say that, but I am a whole lot better now, 2022, than let's say 2010.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm delighted to hear that, actually. And what was the reaction of your family? Your husband, you had not long been married. You had an infant son. What was their reaction like? Well, your husband and your parents, your siblings.
Yes, well, they were, from what they explained, because sometimes you don't even know the extent of the effect during the time that you were ill. But for example, but especially during the time when I was slipping on my meds, my husband would remind me and say, take your meds. Because if you don't take your meds and you get sick, and let's say you have to be institutionalized for a very long time, it would mean that we would lose our house, because I can't pay for it by myself. That kind of practical examples he would say to me, and then husband needs you. I need you. So you take your meds, and eventually it took a while, because so I would couple times. It probably would have been like three, let me see, it have been about 3 to 4 times since I had those serious relapses that had to be institutionalized, and then it wasn't until the last time that having had the kind of experience I would have had, and I really wouldn't want to say them out clearly, except to say that I had some tough times in my last relapse, that I have made it a point, intentional, I'm intentional, Cleo, that even if the meds aren't available and they provide the meds at the government pharmacy, even when they're not there, that if I have to spend my last dollar, I would ensure that I have my medication. If they have to be sourced abroad, which is hardly likely, I attempted most times, but the meds would come before I even got around to that. You know, so my experience as late as, or my experiences as late as 2014 would have taught me, Cleo, to stick on my meds.
So
Because
since 2014, you've been going without a relapse, without an incident.
That was my last relapse, and that forced me to realize that, hey, regardless to how you're doing well, regardless to how you're functioning well at work, or let me start at home, you're doing well, you're taking care of your home, your family, the needs of your husband, and I mean total needs, and you do well at work, you've even gone on to do your graduate work, 2017 to 2019, graduate without any relapse, but still stick on your meds until the doctor says, it's okay, you could ease up now.
Well done, Desrie. And well done, Oswin. This could not have happened without you and your commitment to keeping her well and keeping her happy. Well done. Now,
yes, I know you said,
that one of the reasons why you relapsed was your coming off the medication, you playing Dr. Desrie rather than Desrie BSc. Are there any other triggers that would cause you to have a relapse?
Well, stress. If my stress level rises, I would have, like the last time, like about 2 years ago, it was really a relapse. But I have matured so much clear in managing myself that I spot from a mile that here the situation that is occurring here, and that was work related, that I had to go to the doctor, explain all that was happening, and the doctor sent me on 2 long weeks of sick leave, you know, and it helped. During that time, she provided, well, I had access to counseling within the system, you know, and things became better. So being stressed, regardless to where the stress is, I think overwork too. Really seriously overworking without blending in regular exercise and proper dieting and so on, because I must bring those into play. I must eat well, and so if any time I ease up on my exercise, it doesn't go well at all. I may find that, oh, I'm lazy, I don't want to get out of bed and so on. So I must factor in all of those to ensure that my mental health is in top shape.
I know that one of the reasons why people say they come off their meds is because they don't like what the medication does to them. What are the side effects of your medication? And how do you manage them?
Okay, my meds now, as they are now, they are stabilizers. They have the potential to destroy my vital organs. They can destroy my kidneys, my liver, and so on. But what is happening? I am sent for routine blood tests quite often, more than once per year. So that can be monitored, you know. But apart from that, unless I don't take them the way I should, and I may probably feel lethargic or whatever, but generally I don't have any severe or significant what we say there, or significant effects
from the medication,
or side effects, right? Side effects, and especially, as I said, once I ensure that an exercise is critical, I can't overemphasize how much exercise is critical.
You mentioned the fact that you exercise quite a bit, and that is a part of your regimen. I always associate exercise with physical well-being. Why is it so important for you as a part of your whole management process?
Okay, well, I was always encouraged by my doctors to exercise. I can't recall the scientific connection, but it certainly boosts the mood. It lifts the mood. And there is always a connection between mental health and other physical health. They will tell you that there is no health without mental health. You know, so when it lifts the mood and it contributes to other conditions, positive conditions. For example, Cleo, the medications over the years would have contributed to heightened glucose, right? And when I walk or I play netball, yes, I do play netball, the glucose would be at a normal level, you know? So it helps, it keeps the glucose at a normal level, and then of course it helps me to feel happy and normal, and that's basically the connection with the exercise. But it is important not just for us who are emotionally unwell, but for everyone.
In general, yes,
to exercise regularly.
That I understand clearly.
Yeah, and on an average, I exercise. We walk, my husband and I, we would walk for about 45 minutes to an hour, at least 3 times per week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it helps.
I know, yes, you are self-managed, but from time to time you have to go back to the professionals for an evaluation. And you have chosen to use the public facilities as opposed to going to a private doctor. Why is that? Well,
firstly, I must admit that we have quality doctors. One, because secondly, I don't consider it necessary to be spending money when within the public system I could go and access the service of quality doctors. And then I think that I am a motivator to others like myself, so that when they see me and I'm comfortable, I'm interacting, folks would pass in the public clinics and stare, but I'm okay, that's no problem. You know, so I help to boost the confidence and morale of the others. You know, there's this, I don't, if you'd allow me, there's this particular example. A couple of years back, because when I have my appointments and the frequency of my appointments would depend on how well I'm doing. So if I'm really, really good, it would be like quarterly, every 4 months or so. But whenever I have my appointments, I would ensure that I go early so that I can get to work, you know, at a reasonable time. So on this particular Friday, well, it would have occurred a couple of times before when you go and folks would say, well, don't sit there because these are for, you know, these people or whatever. And although I would be disappointed, I never actually attempted to address it. But this particular Friday, Cleo, I got there real early, like before 7. That was at the outpatient clinic in Kingstown. And when by the time we were so early, we actually got into the building before the nurses and stuff. As soon as they opened, we went in. So by the time they were settled and ready to do their clerical and other work, we were already seated in this area that is close to where our doctor is. About 4 of us, there were like 4 seats there. Seated, myself and 3 others of like mind. So when this particular nurse came, and she was like, you all gotta move, from there. These are for such and such doctor patients. Y'all gonna. I said, where do we go? You are just gonna move from there. That is doctor such and such for doctor such and such patients. I said, we're not moving. I said, we left home early and we're not moving. And she was like, you all have to move. I said, well, you'll have to call the RRU because we're not moving. That's the rapid response unit in the police. We're not moving. And she was really upset. But we sat there, and Cleo, I know that because I was adamant that we're not moving, the others didn't move. They didn't move. Had I gotten up, they would have followed. So that's why I said what I said earlier, because I think that I can encourage, I can let them know, forget about the stigma, nothing is wrong with us.
Yes,
And
I understand. And you see that you have some leadership potential, as you say, among people with like mind.
Right.
Yes.
So those are the 3 reasons why I go. Because since I don't usually, on an average, go often, I could very well, pay, but no, those reasons, I
understand.
I would continue to go to the public.
And since you've had your first attack, and up to 2014, you have been institutionalized a few times. How many times in total were you institutionalized?
About 3 to 4 times. Well, the first time I stayed like 3 to 4 weeks, 3+ weeks, almost a month. And I would have had a couple short episodes, like overnight or 2 nights. And then the last time I went, which was 2014, I spent 10 days.
What was that experience like?
Oh, that was, I think I needed that, but that was terrible. I without attempting to shame anyone, I was locked away, Cleo. I was totally isolated for most of the times by a particular nurse. I don't know why. Any other staff nurse or so, I'm fine. I'll be in the communal area with the others. But once she showed up, she ensured that I'm isolated and put in the cell, as they call it, And the thing is, when you're not that ill, you know that you're suffering, and it's not like it's so serious that, okay, she just going through the illness, and with meds she'll be all right later. But when you know you are okay and you're locked free, loss of freedom is tough, So that, and then I don't know what might have happened, but I recall after I went there like over the Christmas season. So the Boxing morning, because I was disruptive, not sleeping, my husband can't sleep, my son can't sleep, I run out the door and gone in a direction while they gone to look for me. And he had reached a stage where, well, yeah, we have to help. I have to, intervene here. But when the doctor came like 3, that would have been a Friday it was. She came like the following Tuesday. And she said, well, doing her assessment and stuff, she said, no, tomorrow you would be, we would let you go. Would be released. What's the term again? Discharged. Cleo. Tomorrow came, Wednesday came, I still there. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I still there. Get real horrors and challenges and stuff. Then when my birthday came on January 5th, there Elgin showed up. Oswin Elgin showed up, my soulmate, companion, whatever. And he told him, he came, I'm here to take my wife home. He said, well, she's not discharged. Say, well, you'll have to talk to the doctor. In a nutshell, doctor, when she said, well, let me speak with Desrie, because like I told you, I have the best doctors ever. So senior doctor said, let me speak with Desrie. So she did her assessment on the phone. And she said, well, let me speak back to the nurse. No, and nurse said, well, she can't go. She's fit to go. But before she spoke back to the nurse, I said, but doc, didn't you tell me I was supposed to leave since last week, Wednesday? She said, but I was told otherwise. I was told, you're not ready, that kind of thing, you know. So those are challenges, real life challenges, clear, and I'm being rather candid here because I wouldn't necessarily share that with with everyone. But although the system may be flawed, at least it would have helped me. And even with the negative experience, it actually shocked me to that extent that I, regardless to what, as I hinted before, even if I have my last $20, I'm gonna get my meds because I don't want to be institutionalized again.
You said that usually when you had your relapses, it was because you had come off of your medication.
That's
so
right.
Then why is it that with meds you can't be like settled? When does it happen that you have to be institutionalized rather than just put back on your meds and monitored?
Oh, well, I think that is probably an option that they don't always use. It probably depends. I believe when that would have happened to me on that particular occasion, because really I was really hyped. I was manic. I was really manic, and they needed, even if it's just overnight or 2 nights, to have me, you know, taken care of.
Professionally monitored.
Professionally. Right, and absorbed and so on. And then move on.
I want to ask about, it doesn't necessarily relate to you, but you've been able to observe it, I'm sure, firsthand, where there are persons who are committed to the institution, and even when they get well, they are not allowed to go home, or their relatives don't want them to come back home. Have you seen that, and what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, it is prevalent there. The mental health rehabilitation center is overcrowded, and it's overcrowded because one reason is that relatives would have taken their loved ones there and never returned. That's too much a burden. Because I must admit that we're not always easy to deal with. You know, when the moods come and this come and the other, and sometimes we have like as the old folks say, a plaster for every sore, and now everybody could stick up to here and you're giving them cheeks all the time, but yet still is sick, and then they will say, "But nothing wrong with you," you know, that kind of thing. But going back to the question, yes, and I would have observed, folks would have, you know, said to me, well, they wish they could go, but their relatives not taking them. I see they're not getting visitors when I would have been flooded with visitors, you know, morning, noon, and night. Folks are coming or calling, and others there, and they're just not going anyway. But then, of course, there are those who are not doing well at all and must be there. But the vast majority, and I would have been told that, you know, that the vast majority do not have anywhere to go. So they are like homeless people more than emotionally unwell. They have their struggles, but they could still exist outside of the institution, but they have no one to actually take care of them, ensure that they go for their appointments and all of that. And that is sad. It's really heart-wrenching to observe that and to.
So it's not necessarily abandonment. It is just that there's no one for them to go to who can help them manage themselves while they're discharged.
Well, it is both. Folks have actually just abandoned them. You know, and then others may say, well, I'm not capable. They may probably be with, let's say, an aged parent or something. So you have abandonment, and you have, well, there's nothing those who are outside can do. So
have you been able to speak
they are the ones who would still come and visit. You know, they can't help outside, but they would come and visit and bring whatever they can and so on.
Have you been able to interact with any of those particular patients, and how do they describe that experience to you, not being able to go home?
Yeah, for them, it's really sad. I recall one lady, I haven't seen her for a while, she cried and she said, well, actually her house was burned to the ground, and she has to be here, and siblings want to. As a matter of fact, there was some kind of family feud, so that compounded the matter, but they would be emotional, because when you're ill, you don't have emotions. As a relative of mine would have said, it's like you're neither sad nor glad. But when you have your meds keeping you stable, and you have to concentrate on the fact that there you are, and you wish the situation was better, they have to grieve, and ultimately that generates a deterioration even further.
So it just
so
creates
it's like a
this
ripple
revolving,
effect.
yes.
Yes, it revolves. But it's real, folks yearn to be there, and I must take this opportunity again to encourage encourage persons with loved ones who are struggling with mental illness to just be supportive, because that is like the difference. It's actually the difference between walking on the street as a homeless person, or as opposed to being cared for like I am, and holding down a proper job and taking care of my family and all of that.
Desrie, you referred earlier to not being afraid of stigmatization. You use the public facilities, you've been institutionalized at the rehabilitation center. Have you had any experiences with stigmatization?
Oh, sure. More than once. Once I was in a particular educational institution. If I may give you one or two examples. And this gentleman with whom I spoke, he was active in religious activities. And I felt, at ease to relate to him. We chatted and stuff. And I told him eventually, because I felt comfortable in the conversation. I said, but I'm bipolar, because I say that freely all the time. I admit, whether I'm writing or, I said, I'm bipolar, and so on. The conversation ended clear. And up to this day, that gentleman has not looked me in my eyes or said anything of substance to me, and that's just one. I would have been in a public transport the other day where the conductor called me crazy.
Why is this? Because he knows your history, or is it because of something that you did or said?
Well, two things. He's from not too far from where I live. That's one. And the other thing, I was really famished. I was hungry, so I munched something, and something spilled on the floor. So when he looked back after, and he said, "Oh, what did that come from?" And I said, "Well, it came from me. I was trying to just munch something," and then he just blurted out, "You crazy self."
What was the reaction of the passengers in the bus driver even?
Nobody said anything. Nobody said anything.
So by this program, we're really just scratching the surface. There's a dire need for education on the matter.
Yes.
How is it like, sorry.
Go ahead. Yes, it's okay.
How is it like at work? Because there's still a lot of ignorance for as many people who know and who understand. There are a lot of people who don't know and who don't understand. And one of the things I heard you say earlier is that when you get all stroppy, people will say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. You have a plaster for every sore. And I've heard so many times, they're playing crazy, they ain't crazy. How do you deal with this situation at work?
Well, overall, generally, my workplace would have been from when I started at skills training all the adulthood to now. Generally, folks are supportive, would have been supportive. But in between, you would like hear maybe somebody reporting that this is her history, this is what she went through, and so on. So when well, you don't know that part of me, but in one particular meeting, I had to say to the folks with that kind of knowledge, especially when we get new staff. For example, we know we have yes workers, and I would have started as a field worker, business skills instructor and stuff, going around doing instruction in business. So a couple times I would take other staff members, yes workers, maybe the receptionist or clerk typist, whoever, take them out the office and, you know, expose them to what's happening out there. And then, of course, I have the history of telling folks my challenge and stuff. And each time clear, several, about 2 or 3 of the yes workers, I would have said to them, I'm bipolar, you know, such and such be the case. You know what that is? And I would have gone to the institution 1 or 2 times. And each time they said to me, I was told, I know that. So one time in a meeting not too long ago, I had to say to them, you see my situation, let me speak about it. Let me publicize it. Please give me the privilege of publicizing it. Because I'm not going around and say, well, X has that or the other. So apart from it not being my business to publicize and your business to publicize mine, it's simply not right.
Yes.
Folks can, I think in certain jurisdictions, folks can be taken to court for exposure because these things are supposed to be confidential.
Private and confidential.
Exactly. Yes. As I said, that would be the vast minority, the minority. But generally, I would have over the years received support. You know, like when I would have gone to the institution, my colleagues would come and, you know, bring stuff, support and all of that. And
I'm glad. I'm really glad
to relieve my pressure and stuff. But in between, you still have these pockets because we know in every sphere you have these troublesome persons.
Yes.
Yes.
And in terms of your professional life, despite all of the challenges, you still went on to pursue your master's degree. What made you come to the decision that that's a step you can take, and how did you manage to go through those 2 years, just focusing on your degree and not actually having a relapse?
Okay, well, I have always had the ambition to keep lifelong learning, climbing the educational ladder. And I attempted in 2013 to do it online, but that wasn't working out. Assignments were coming fast and furious. You know how that is, Cleo, instead of reading and stuff. And so I had to run to my doc. I said, Doc, this, I know I didn't come and ask your permission, but I had started this online master's program with the university in the UK. But like I'm running out of steam and energy and all of that. I said, no, Desrie, no, you have to go face to face. Even persons who don't have your challenge find it difficult online. No, don't do that. So, you know, so I said, okay. Then after a while, although I had other loved ones, friends and family saying, but Desrie, why you don't go? I said, no, my son is coming, I'll support him. Even my husband, I'll support them, but not me. I think I should be the one to just, and I don't know if that was part of a manic, because I read somewhere that sometimes when they get a manic, depending on how severe it is, you do things that you were a little reluctant and fearful of doing, you know? But I just decided one day, you know what, I'm going. I wasn't sure because I have mortgage and stuff taken care of. I wasn't sure of the tuition and airfare and whatnot, but I began the process and everything went seamlessly. Applied for study leave, got study leave. Got place to stay with a friend / sister of mine in Trinidad whenever I have a module. Everything just went smoothly. So I didn't go with any pressure, wondering, how am I gonna get the money? Like, in opposition to when I did first degree. Just got everything worked out fine along the path. And of course, I had the doctor, and she would have advised me, monitor myself closely, look for any sign, take my meds, continue exercise, all of that. And I did everything she said. And as I told you before, I'm a woman of faith. So I really had the spiritual aspect of my life real top notch. So all of that, during that time, Cleo, I didn't get any episode. So the doctor didn't have to increase my dosage or anything. I just went through from 2017 to 2019.
Excellent.
And I graduated June 2019.
Congratulations, Desrie. And your son, talking about graduation, your son recently graduated. When you first started having your attacks, he was just a toddler. He was a babe in arms.
Yes.
And he just graduated. How did he deal with this over the years?
Well, he seemed to me normal, but sometimes I wonder if it bothers him. I don't have any sign that it is bothering him. Because even once when a lady blotted out when we were trying to get away from one of those rude van drivers in town, and he said to me, "Ma, you heard what that lady said when he drove off?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, it's the crazy girl from Samuel." So I say, "Ozzy, I was driving." I say, "Ozzy, you find I'm crazy?" He said, "No, Ma." Because with a crazy person, as they say, because I try hard not to use that C word.
Mm-hmm.
You think that what she's describing, that type of person could drive and so on and take care of you and stuff? He said, "No, Ma." And he never came, because sometimes he could be a bit outspoken. He never came and said to me, "Ma, sometimes I feel uncomfortable with, the only thing he came close with is telling me that I must be a little, like, Ma, when the church people are wrong, he was trying not to use those words, the colorful words." So I say, all right, but your mother, she doesn't have control during that time. So that's the only thing that, but I think
so it sounds as if between you and your husband, you've coached him well enough to understand that it's an illness just like sickle cell, just like asthma, and you have your relapses, but you will get over it, and it's just something that the family has to manage.
That's right. That's
excellent.
Right.
That's
right, my dear. That's right.
And you always say throughout this program, you've been saying you're a woman of faith, you're a woman of faith. Was your faith ever shaken during this whole period of your illness?
Well, the thing is, any shaking would have been between, but because, as I said, when you're sick, you don't have time to feel sorry for yourself. Not just don't have time, but that illness doesn't afford that kind of luxury that you would be sorry and so on. The others, my family members, and even that time, I would not even be thinking how they feel, But so by the time I get over now, there's no need to be wondering about what could have been. You understand? So the thing is, I would have over the years been praying that, that I can cope, or even that I be healed, but when it was explained to me clearly by one of my doctors that this may very well be lifelong, you may just have to be living with this situation, and I've accepted it. Because it's once I'm okay and once I do what I have to do, it's not preventing me from functioning normally. So I don't have to worry that, okay, I can't lift a spoon or a leg or whatever.
And so there's no need for your faith to be shaken.
Right. And then of course I maintain that relationship, because a relationship with God promotes any kind of health for that matter. So normally things that others may worry about, I just say, well, God will take care of that. And he generally does.
What brought you to the point where you decided to do your Facebook publications?
Well, I never even reveal it to nobody at home or any friend, but I was sensing a kind of reaction. I was sensing a heightened kind of stigma in a particular because I don't want to shame anyone in a particular area where I operated often. So I just thought that as you said just now, that we're just scratching the surface in terms of educating folks. So I say, you know what? I need to start being active in sharing and educating and mobilizing or whatever I can do. It may not be a big dent, but at least step by step, at least a start, so that the positive energy can spread. And I'm happy, Cleo. I don't know if I've said that as yet, but I'm happy that you actually invited me to your program, so I can share. And because like I said, I have no problem in sharing. You know, I share with students who are studying from my friend, professor online, USC. I share with trainee doctors who are associated with our system here from Trinity and maybe one or two other medical universities. I share in programs at church and different places, different venues. You know, any opportunity at all I get, I share. So I'm happy that you could have, been part of that whole campaign.
We are delighted to be a part of it. And whenever you feel moved, if we don't reach out to you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would be happy to have you on the program.
All
when
right,
are we getting season 2? When are we getting Facebook season 2?
When I just a while ago, I was saying, it's almost a year since I actually started season 1. That was in November. By the last week of December last year, I did the last episode. Let's see what happens. Sometimes I don't always plan. But hopefully for the fourth anniversary of season 1.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward with bated breath.
Okay.
What's next for you, Desrie? Another degree? Another what? A speaking engagement? What's next for you?
Well, the engagements I hope would be ongoing and maybe spread wider, And well, I'm actually in the process of writing. Cleo, I'm writing those stuff that I posted in my first season were actually clips from what I've started to type. Time is my problem. I need to find a way of organizing my time properly so I could be consistent, because the last time I actually wrote anything would have been like months. Yes, in addition to the writing, I really would want to be an advocate for attempting to attack the stigmatization that exists unnecessarily. So I would really like to know where that started. So, but nonetheless, it's with us, and it's for real. It's crippling, especially for those persons who have low self-esteem. There was this particular young lady, Cleo, as I wrap up, as we come down to the end. She was doing a course with us before, but she got ill often, and eventually that would have been during the skills training era. Eventually, she went to do a hairdressing program with a private, a private entity, and she was walking in Kingston with her colleagues or classmates, and this guy met them, and the guy was like, what program are they doing? We fast. What program are they doing? And they told, well, they're doing hairdressing. Hairdressing is who that crazy one, they go here, she go and burn up And that was such a hard blow. She just ended up, maybe by the next couple of days, she ended up in the institution. No, regardless, well, that's how, and we have a lot of folks, unfortunately, who would be weak like that, you know, in terms of how they cope with these comments and so. Whatever folks may say to me, and I have to give God thanks, because I guess with the support and having always been a confident person, that helps. But not everybody like me, you know, and so I would really like, and folks are cruel. You'd be surprised the kind of things folks would say, you know, and those comments and the way people may treat us, I would say us, with scant courtesy, because let's say, for example, folks would automatically think that you do not deserve a promotion. Folks would think so, but clear, I'm delighted to announce that over the years, I don't think I would have been discriminated like that. I'm not certain of the folks who are actually doing the promotions over the years, because now I'm senior education officer in adulthood. I don't know if it is that they were unaware, but whatever is a 2x4, as we say, a small country. So somebody somewhere would know, yes, she has a history. But they went beyond that and say, well, even if she has a history, that she's functioning well. You know, she's an exemplary leader. She's knowledgeable and that kind of thing. Therefore, we would promote her, you know. So at least, although the stigmatization is generally widespread, there are still persons within our system who are cognizant that we can't just dismiss someone because they have their emotional struggles and just marginalize them and that kind of thing. I'm happy that we still have leaders and department heads and business owners and all of that, because we have a lot of emotionally unwell persons on the job who are holding down good positions, well, all position good, but they know that we have to go for our appointments when the time comes. They know that we take our medication, but that doesn't change how they react to us, how they allow us to, you know, to be elevated.
So Desrie,
academically or otherwise.
if you were to give three pieces of advice to the ill and 3 pieces of advice to those of us who have to support the ill, what would they be?
Okay, I'll start with the supporters of the ill. Don't turn your back on the emotionally unwell. Try hard not to get tired, because it's a tough task. I know I would tell you that it's easy to be, you know, assisting and caring for and encouraging emotionally unwell. So have patience. And I would also encourage them to seek knowledge, research, read. See what it is, what is bipolar, what is schizophrenic, what can depression lead to? And you know, that's for them. For us, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are in no way inferior or different to others who have or do not have any kind of illness at all. So we are worthwhile. Take our meds. Let's take our medication. Do what our doctors ask us to do, not what a family member says or some professional somewhere. We listen to the doctor, or some family or other member who may think that we're not really emotionally well. It's just somebody do us, and they must take us to Carriacou, Trinidad, or wherever, Tobago, wherever. We ill mentally, we go to those experts who deal with them. And I would say to us who are ill and those who are caring for us, we need God. It's really difficult not to have faith and trust in God. That makes a whole lot of difference. Tons of difference, Cleo.
Desrie, this has been amazing. And as much as I've read, it was still an eye-opener. And I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Sweet Radio SVG and for telling our audience on Life No Sugar Added the trials that you've had and the triumphs that you've had, because as far as many trials as you've had, your triumphs have been amazing. And I am so proud of you from our days way back when, right up to today. I want to thank Oswin and Oswin Jr. for standing by your side, the rest of your family and your colleagues for understanding and for holding your hand right up to this day. Your story is amazing. You are a wonderful motivator, and I wish you all the best, Desrie.
Thank you, Cleo, and thanks for having me, and thanks for being my friend over the years. Love you,
We have a saying on this program. We say Ubuntu, and it simply means I am because you are.
Okay.
So, Ubuntu.
I am because you are. Love
Ubuntu.
you, Cleo.
Love you, Desrie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been Life No Sugar Added on Sweet Radio SVG. My guest is Desrie Richards, and Desrie is one of the people who suffers from mental illness. She's actually bipolar, and she spoke today about her struggle from the time she was diagnosed up to this point, and she's doing well.
Thank God.
They can't break me down.